Long ago, I said that after I finished 5.6 Bill on the main, I'd make an Iron Man. And while that isn't quite the case yet, I figured that since I can still AFK a lot of the skills I have left on the way there, I'd get a little head start on my next chapter. I went on and created an Iron Man and began to progress the account. I also had been toying with the idea of making a comeback to YouTube. Streaming had been rough with my work schedule, and while I could still play a decent amount, I just wasn't really comfortable with the poor quality of the live content that I was able to put out. If you're watching this, you probably guessed that I opted to make a new YouTube series. Inspired by my favorite YouTubers like Wazzy and Wazwer, I wanted to create content where people could truly experience what it's like to play this game. However, most RS3 YouTubers focus mostly on updates and goals, which is fine. In fact, that's what my channel has been as well up until now. But I want to do something I've never seen on RS3 YouTube. Old School RuneScape has some of the greatest content creators when it comes to storytelling. Settled Swampletics series is more interesting than 99% of the things I have watched in my life. And Settled, if you ever accidentally stumble upon this video, please try to get Swamp Man on Netflix. RuneScape is a unique game where the journey is just as important, if not more important, than the destination. And that's what this whole series is about. I want to tell the best story that's ever been told on RS3. The highs, the lows, the good, the bad, you know, the journey. The start of the journey was a little bit rocky. This is 5 Turtle Walk, my first attempt at creating an Iron Man. Yeah, I said attempt. I didn't know that choosing Iron Man mode was the very beginning step, so 5 Turtle Walk was created as a main. Oops. This is Fat BullToad. We did it right this time, but something was missing. Much better. Now, before I get too far into this video, I do want to briefly address something. This episode will most likely be a recap of everything that has happened up to this point. I played a lot more than I intended off camera, and future episodes will have a lot more live footage. Now, you might be asking, JMO, how much could you possibly have done before starting the video making process? So yeah, because my focus is on the journey, I've opted to break the series down into varying phases rather than one singular end goal. In this video, I'll be covering Phase 1. Phase 1 will not end until I've unlocked the following. Invention, requiring 80 smithing, crafting, and divination. Prifddinas, the elf city, requiring Plague's End, and subsequently 75 and quite a few other skills. Turmoil, which requires 95 prayer and completion of the temple at Santiston. Overloads, boostable with 90 herb lore. And finally, creating my first Araxor weapon, whether that be a bow, a scythe, or a staff. My plan for Phase 1 consisted of rushing Invention and obtaining a Cywer wand. While Hellwar wasn't directly relevant to the completion of Phase 1, I figured if I could get lucky, it would make everything easier. I spent the first couple of weeks of the account rushing Invention. This was far before the thought of a YouTube series, largely because I had no idea that I'd have as much fun as I ended up having. I was basically a mining peer in the beginning. Whether it be gems or ores, I went so hard. I vividly remember bowling League while mining Dracolith on mobile. I fell in love with the early game, as dumb and as boring as it is. I eventually moved on to smithing the ores and cutting the gems I'd mined, all the while doing daily caches. Eventually, I finally unlocked Invention. The road to Prif was long and arduous. I needed level 75 and a lot of skills that were very slow. Fortunately, I had already knocked out 75 crafting and mining, but there were quite a few skills that would prove troublesome. I remember doing 20 minutes at a time of wilderness agility with the sure-footed aura because that's all I could stomach at once. I was putting all of my quest rewards into herblore, doing herby werby, desperately looking for any herblore XP I could find. I'm pretty sure that was the longest part. Construction wasn't terrible thanks to construction contracts. I think I actually did that in one sitting. I ended up doing ranged and summoning through ED3 trash runs, which that was just absurd. I cannot actually express how broken those rates are. I think I ended up doing Vires for the prayer requirement, or at least part of it, but if that's not the case, I have absolutely no clue how I got 75. Anywho, I finished Plague's End, and with that, unlocked Prifddinas. Next up was 95 Prayer. Here, I felt I had two options, Vires or Cleansing Crystals, with some Chaos Altar bone running mixed in. If you know anything about RS3 Iron Man, you know that money is an absolute premium in the mid-game. You're doing shop runs daily, and spending cash left and right for just about everything. For this reason, I felt that I really didn't have the option but to do Vires. It was also at this part that I realized that I truly had no idea how I got 75 prayer in the last segment. Anywho, I was at a crossroads for the account as well. The Plague's End boss fight proved pretty difficult with the Gothic staff, and I knew that if I chose to do Vires, a Gothic staff wouldn't cut it for the River of Blood quest fight. So I opted to try my luck at Hellwar. A wand would absolutely change the game for me. I went with a friend that had max rep so that my wand drop was 1 in 256. The orb was vastly less important, but when I ended up being spoon-fed one in the first hour, it was certainly welcome. However, the next ones wouldn't be. I committed to Hellwar in the search of a wand. This was probably my worst grind over the entire account. My solos were around 4 minutes long, and my duo partners weren't exactly plentiful. I had a couple higher level friends that were thrilled to take me in the beginning, but my bad luck unfortunately outlasted them. I ended up not getting 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 orbs before finally. 1,337 kills for a wand, over 5 times the drop rate, but it was finally over. With my first augmentable weapon in hand, I busted out the vampire questline, completed River of Blood, and camped Vires for 92 prayer before I had an idea. With tier 85 weapons and access to Soul Split, I had opened up about 1 million new possibilities, but there was only one that was on my mind: Carapac. Carapac's drop table is an Iron Man's dream. Coins, alks, cannonballs, a usable pocket slot, greater concentrated blast, which would significantly improve my already massive weapon upgrade, and specifically, what I had in mind, Dragonkin Bones. Killing Carapac served so many purposes, and while I didn't get as many bones as I initially wanted, I did end up getting a greater concentrated blast along the way, which effectively made my account an absolute powerhouse. Along the way, I had also made so much money in coin drops and alks that I simply opted to finish off the prayer XP that the bones didn't get me with cleansing crystals at Prif. With that, 95 prayer was complete. It's not to say that I wasn't questing before, but with overloads in mind, I really started pushing for quests. My goal was to get as many quest rewards in Herblore as possible, since materials are so hard to come by. I will say that the 13,000 Lantidimes from Hellwar did help a bit though. I made Sliske's endgame a priority and looked for some other quests for large chunks of XP, and eventually I made my first overload thanks to a spicy stew boost. 90 was important because the next goal would be the most difficult. The final phase 1 goal is to complete an Araxi weapon. Upon completion of this, I'd finally be a tier 90 gamer, which would be my entry into the world of mid to high level PBM. One thing was pretty clear though, I needed some upgrades. Now that I had greater concentrated blast and overloads, I was able to do small amounts of daily Araxor, which yielded a bottom, a middle, and 2 top legs in my first 99 kills, but I was really feeling limited by my enrage. I had been using a Reaper necklace, and while it was definitely usable for Araxor, I felt that I'd benefit a ton more from a Souls Amulet. The problem with that, however, is that it requires level 99 crafting to make. My strategy for crafting was simple: harps when I'm AFK, an Archglacior for Dragonstones and Crystal Keys with a very low chance of dropping a pocket slot item, the Book of Wen. I ended up getting the book on my 5th normal mode 5 mechanic kill, and opted to AFK harps the rest of the way at work. Once I got to 93, I was finally able to boost to make the Amulet of Souls, just in time for 2-3 to come around. There I was, 4 leg pieces and a dream. Over the course of 3 days, I did 105 Araxor kills, getting 2 middles, 2 bottoms, and finally, there it was, a Fang. The final piece of the puzzle, and the completion of Phase 1. Wait, I can't equip it. One sec. Holy moly, would you look at that, 90 attack. Now we can equip the scythe. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I really never expected the actual attack requirement to be the hard part of this. But here we are. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, here we go. Fat BullToad is now a tier 90 gamer. With that, Phase 1 is complete. Those of you who have made it this far, I just wanted to extend my appreciation for sitting through episode 1, which I can only really describe as a prequel for the real series. Every future video will be riddled with live reaction and video instead of screenshot after screenshot telling you what happened. I hope to see you all in the next episode, where we'll get into Phase 2 and the plan that I've got for it. See you next time for the next part of the journey.